Okay, hopefully I'm back. Wow. Um, that didn't go nearly as well as it went when I tested it this morning. So, okay, welcome to day one. Um, and I'll be watching as you catch up. And please, as soon as you get in here, let me know that you're here and let me know that you have volume that you can hear me. So, then we can dive in. I'm going to give a few minutes here because we got started and then there was no volume and I couldn't figure out where the hidden microphone mute button was. So got that. I'm giving you a chance to catch up and get in. So, all right. Well, Paul Sterling here. This is take 2 of night 1, and we're diving into the how to make your relationship remarkable. And hopefully you're catching up with me here. All right. Well, we're checking out logistics here. And luckily, I'm a lot better with relationships than I am with technology. I was trying to, I met with Zoom today and they had it so Zoom was going to work with Facebook Live and the whole thing was going to be easy. And now I can't see if anybody's on there. So if you're on in Facebook, please make a comment there. And that way I know to roll forward with this whole process. All right, I am going to. It says watch. What? Okay, so just type in. Did you just type that in? Ah, here we go. People are starting to catch up. Thank you. I am so sorry for the logistical errors. I really did. I practiced it today several times to blend Facebook Live with Zoom. I was on them for a call for a while, and then there it goes. All right. So I'm going to dive in. Some of you are going to listen live. Some of you are going to listen to the recording. Sorry about the delays. Paul Sterling here. And tonight, what I want to make sure is that you, by the way, you can hear now. Oh, good. Thanks, Jeanette. Hopefully you've got your handouts printed out. We'll dive in, go through this. The people who are trying to get on Zoom, I apologize to you. I was, it was all worked out. Gonna go so smoothly. I practiced everything. All right. So if you haven't already gotten your best-selling book that I wrote, Argue Less, Love More, it's great. It really ties in well with this whole program. That is Marianne Williamson and me talking about the book. It became #1 in 5 different categories on Amazon, and the first 100 people got a copy of it. And if you haven't gotten your copy and you were in that first 100 people, let me know and I'll get you the link to it. Because it's a great little book to go with this. So let me tell you a little bit of a story. This is Once Upon a Time. And the Once Upon a Time story was really about this couple here. And this couple here is my dad and my mom, and they loved each other. But what happened is they had a painful divorce after about 18 years, because even though they loved each other, and they loved each other until my dad passed away. But what happened is they ran into problems that were bigger than their skill set. And what's interesting, we're going to talk about that with your relationship operating system. Is your system set up to fail or succeed? And what's interesting is when I got a divorce, I called my mom and asked her how long, they were married before they got a divorce. 18 years. How long was I together before I got my divorce? 18 years. So that was interesting, a pattern. Is it, does it happen in all cases? Absolutely not. But what happens is we want to change the patterns that we grew up with and be more prepared to create the relationship we really want. So yes, problems bigger than your skill set, definitely. And I went through one divorce, 4 broken engagements before I discovered all of this stuff. They say you teach what you need to learn. This is definitely what I needed to learn. Behind here is the 7 skills. Up here is your ROS, your relationship operating system. And hopefully all of you got the handout and printed it out, because it's really, I'm going to do some talking, but this is interactive, and who you're going to interact with most is yourself. And then you'll want to have a study buddy as we move through there are going to be 5 nights. As we move forward, you want to do the exercises, and you'll want to do the exercises with somebody, and definitely participate here on the Facebook Live. So, I grew up, this is actually me when I had hair. I don't have hair anymore. That is in Alaska. But when I left home, I thought there had to be a better way. And that was the boat. By the time I was 21, that boat, my partner and I brought around from from Florida to Alaska. And then this is another boat I got to run, was captain of the Kamishak Queen. And somewhere along the way, I ended up bumping into somebody who said, you got to go to this personal development program. Now, I was a commercial fisherman in Alaska. Personal development, that was far from what I was thinking about. But that is Robert Kiyosaki, the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and was my introduction into that world. And then he introduced me to another guy there, a much younger version of Tony Robbins. And I ended up being on Tony Robbins' staff for a while and working for Tony. And then at some point, Tony actually hired me to come in and teach his inner circle about quality, productivity, and systems. And that's what he looks like at an older age. Then another friend of mine, Bob Proctor, became a mentor of mine and really taught me a lot about how to use my mind and transform my beliefs. And that's Richard Bandler, who was one of the originators of neuro-linguistic programming. I studied with him. Byron Katie, Marshall Thurber, who brilliant guy about systems, and he taught me about Dr. Deming's work. Deming's a guy who taught the Japanese about quality and productivity and systems. How do you make the invisible visible? And so it's with that kind of thinking that I thought about what's the invisible system that's running your relationship. And that's how I came up with this. And this guy here is Marshall Rosenberg, who created nonviolent communication. Marshall is no longer with us, but almost every person that I've clicked on so far has been a turning point in my life. And Marshall is definitely a turning point. I never looked at communication and relationships the same after I spent almost a month with him in Sweden. I spent about $5,500. This was years ago, about 25 years ago. That was a lot of money. And I hadn't invested that much money in myself before. And it was the best investment I made. And that's Marshall and his puppets. And I still, to this day, I still have a different kind of puppet that I use. Like right here, you're either communicating from where is my last one? From your head, hopefully you can see my Einstein, from your heart, or from your hurt. We're going to get into that in the later modules. So let me bounce back down here. So what I want you to do is type in the box, what do you see? When you look at this picture, what do you see? And this is an important thing. So type in just what the first thing that you see when you look at that. And I'm going to wait a second, give you a chance. Don't be shy. And now we're going to take another look at it. Yeah, actually, can you look closer and see what it is? Now what do you see? It's a bunch of porpoises. Now, is it a beautiful couple being intimate? Absolutely. Is it a bunch of porpoises? Absolutely. It depends on how you look at it. And what we're going to do tonight is change the way we look at relationships, and something else is going to become visible when you look at it. So when you change the way you look at things, things change. Now, this couple came to me, this is probably about a year and a half ago, or probably 2 years ago. We started working, and they really loved each other, but they couldn't figure out how to do the next step. They were engaged, but they couldn't get married because they kept running into problems. And now these pictures are at their wedding. They rented a place in Arizona up at Hot Springs. I went there, and I was not the officiator. I was sort of the DJ that kept things going and alive, and it was an amazing event. And when they came to me, and part of the reason I'm going to give you some case studies and testimonials all along the way, because I want your brain to start seeing that there actually is a way to do this. Something's possible. People who were really stuck before, and they were stuck, and they had a breakthrough. I was desperate for better communication with my beloved. We felt like cats and dogs trying to get along, couldn't understand each other. This course gave us the tools, language, and infrastructure we both use. We now feel a breath of new possibility for the future, and a new level of intimacy and love, and is deeply fulfilling and committed. Now, here's what she said.
Today I learned that I can answer people from my mind, from my hurt, or from my heart. And at the beginning, I was no, but I can't just answer from my heart if I don't agree with something.
There were times when we were both so scared and felt like we didn't know how to navigate and didn't have the tools. And you gave us so much love and support. You believed in us. You gave us incredible tools. And I truly believe that we are happily married today because of your support.
I just want to thank you for helping me.
There was a lot of background noise in that one. That was actually a friend of mine, Kent, who was Mr. Colorado. So here is this huge guy, very, handsome, strong, powerful man. And he had his heart broken in relationships. And so he was afraid of being vulnerable. And so we worked together a little bit, and it really had a breakthrough for him. So here's my question. I want you to participate here. Write this down. Do dogs like bones? And now this is my dog, and he may come up here during this whole process and check us out. My cat, my cat is right here, because anytime I'm doing something like this, the cat wants to be on the desk or on my lap. But anyway, do dogs like bones? So write your answer in there, yes or no. And this is a metaphorical example, all right? But my dog will chew on bones for hours. But if I offer my bone my dog, if I offer my dog steak versus a bone, he'll spit the bone out and go for the steak. So do dogs love bones? Well, they like bones. They'll settle for bones, but what they want is steak. So just think about that. Dogs love steak and they settle for bones. And so here's the thing I want to do in this course is like, where are you settling in your relationship? We settle in a relationship because we don't think we can have, and I want to be careful. There's so many vegetarians. My beloved is part-time vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian. So I'm using it metaphorically. Steak, it could be tofu, could be a good salad. But what I want you to think about is, in your relationship, do you have what you want, or are you settling? And have you gotten so used to settling that you don't even believe it's possible anymore to have the relationship of your dreams? So we're going to dive in, and this is where you definitely want your handout out, because I'm going to walk you through it so you can get clear where you are now and where you want to go. So this one right here is, I call it the relationship zones, and there's a continuum here. So on one side is you're disconnected to connected, sacrificing yourself, being yourself. So in this lower quadrant, and you've got to write this in because I left a few things blank. That's the quit and stay zone. And as we're going through it, look at it. Oh, by the way, Stephanie, totally, first place, we're in lots of relationships. She asked, she's not in a relationship. Does this still apply? Absolutely, it applies to our relationship with ourselves. It applies to the relationships we have other people around us. And if you get in a relationship, it will apply to your new relationship. So if you're not in a relationship right now, think about one of the last ones you were in and look at this based on this. And probably if we're in a relationship and you're not now, it may be because you got stuck in one of these zones. So the first zone is quit and stay zone. And the quit and stay zone is where basically you've given up on getting your needs met in the relationship, but it's not even worth your time and energy to quit this relationship and go try to be in another one. I once heard it called the invisible divorce, where you don't technically get divorced, but you're not really in a marriage anymore. So what I want you to do is, and by the way, there's 3 circles here: a little circle, a middle, and a big circle. So if you spend a lot of time in there, put a big circle. If you spend medium, and if it's little, just put a little one right here. So we're going to look at the 4 different zones. Quit and stay zone, that's where you're basically disconnected and you're sacrificing yourself, and often a little bit miserable. And I have been in all of these 4 zones. I know them all well. The next one is everyone for themselves zone. And that's where you're in a relationship, but you are taking care of yourself. Your partner's taking care of their self. You're almost more like roommates than you are romantic lovers. And in this, it's like, I take care of my needs, you take care of yours. And as we're going through these, let me know which one resonates with you, which one not do you like, but which one do you end up spending time in. This next one, waiting for my turn zone. And I was actually good at this at one point in one of my engagements. I was waiting for my turn and I went out of my way. I would do all sorts of things for her. And I always expected that someday it would be my turn. Now, in our culture, there's a lot of women right now that have reached 40, well, no, actually 50s, 60s, and 70s, where they were told, they got in, and I'm talking about a conventional relationship, conventional skills, conventional situation. They got married, they had kids, they put their husband's career first. I know that's not true for a lot of the younger generations. It's a totally different dynamic. But these women got to that later age and then looked around and said, when's my turn? They spend a lot of their life waiting for their turn, and they're pretty sad about it. And the basic idea is if I sacrifice my needs enough and take care of yours, one day it will be my turn. So how many of you have ever been in a relationship where you did that? And it's no, in almost any real healthy relationship, there are times, yeah, I wait for my turn, and then my partner will do stuff for me and she's waiting for her turn. So there is a back and forth. But I'm talking about, is this a dominant thing? The next one is your partnership zone. And your partnership zone is, I'll take care of your needs, you take care of my needs. We're kind of, it's in fun and enjoyable. And then this quadrant down here is fear-based. I'm afraid there's not enough time, money, love, energy to go around, and I'm afraid of asking for my needs. So I end up stuck down here, and I have spent a lot of time in relationships stuck in fear-based relationships. And there's another zone out here, and that's basically a remarkable relationship. And it takes skills. If you want a remarkable relationship, you need remarkable relationship skills. So which quadrant have you spent the most time in? And then put a slash there. Which quadrant do you want to spend a lot more time in? Because you're not here to stay stuck. You're here to figure out where you want to go and what you need to do to get there. So for me, I guess I was in all of them. I didn't spend as much time in quit and stay. It was more of everyone for themselves, waiting for my turn, or partnership zone. And I'm now in a remarkable relationship. And I apply the tools. It's like these tools, it's like going to the gym. You don't get to go to the gym once a year and say, I got it. Man, I worked on my relationships 2 years ago. I got it. I went to the gym 2 years ago. No, it's an ongoing process, and you keep getting new and more challenging things to work on. So that's that one. And we want relationships to be simple. And here's what they typically look like. There is no straight line in relationships. It's this curvy, circuitous route. And here's what makes relationships difficult. I thought that, I'm one slide ahead of myself. Every master started out as a disaster, and I basically have told you my disaster story. So my relationship history, I got in a relationship, and what I didn't realize is that every relationship, if it's a long-term committed, especially if you're living together relationship, is not one relationship, it's 3 relationships. And we're friends, we're lovers, and we're partners. And what happens is all 3 of those, you need to get your needs met in each of those. What about they are doing everything for you and you don't do so much? Well, if that's the case, you've got to look at, why are you in the relationship? Have you quit and stayed? Because quitting means that you're not actively participating. They could be giving you everything, and if you're not doing anything in return, are you really in the relationship, or have you given up on it? So that's a quick answer to that one. So bouncing back to the trilogy here, you're not in one relationship, you're really in 3 relationships. So what I want you to do is, on your piece of paper, you're going to kind of highlight in, let me just move it ahead one, so you get the colors in here. They're going to be, if you've got it figured out, it's green. If you're working on it and you still need some work, it's yellow. And if it's a problem area, it's going to be red. So as I cover each of these areas, see there's going to be 3 in lovers, 3 in friends, 3 in partners. Highlight them either green, yellow, or red. So when you're friends and lovers and you have that connection, there's an intimate connection. When you're partners and lovers, there's a compelling future. When you get together and you're partners and friends, there's a team that you can trust. So here are 3 elements of friendship. Oh, here it is. Here are the little things. So green, you got it. Yellow needs work. Red, bad shape. So number 1 in friends, is it a friend you can trust? And there's 2 parts of trust. So can you trust your friend, your lover, your partner? And can you trust yourself with them? So the second part is, do I trust that I'm going to take care of myself? Because codependency is when you stop taking care of yourself to be with somebody else and you give up on your needs. Now, can you talk about anything and everything? Remember, as when you were first together as either really good friends or as lovers, you could talk about almost anything and everything and spend all night doing it. And now, for a lot of you, your partner stopped listening or you've stopped listening. So how are you with the talking part? And what about acceptance? So yellow or green, yellow, red, and now blend them all together. Is your friendship green, yellow, or red? So type that in there. Just put in, if you're in a relationship, put in green, yellow, or red when it comes to friendship. Because what we want to do is we want to look at which area needs work. Because they once said a problem clearly defined is a problem half solved. So if we can figure out where the problem is, then we know where to focus our time and energy. So is it in friendship? Is it lovers that needs work? Is it partners? Now, like long-term, a lot of long-term relationships fall in the friend-lover trap. I mean, friend-partner trap, sorry. They're partners, and what I mean by partners is you have a house together, or you're paying rent together, or you're living together, you're making business decisions together, or financial decisions together, you're sharing money, maybe you're raising kids. You got into the work side of relationship, and you're still good friends, but you've stopped watering the lover side, and maybe you're intimate once a month, maybe you're intimate once a year. And I've helped couples wake that back up and turn that around. So where is it you are good? Like we got partner nailed, or we got friends nailed, or we have lover nailed. Which one's good? Which one needs work? So with lovers, how is the intimacy? And intimacy is emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, and sexual intimacy. It's 3 shades there. Is there a lot of intimate pleasure? Do you still give each other pleasure and hug and cuddle and make love? And is there still some level of passion in there? So you're wanting to have all 3 of those. So again, red, yellow, or green. Which one needs work? Which one's fine? So is this all making sense, by the way? Thumbs up if it's making sense. Well, I don't know if you can give me a thumbs up here, but if it's making sense, just type in, yes, it's making sense. All right. When it comes to partners, there's 3 key areas to keep the partnership alive: values, vision, and goals. And number 1, values. Look at, do you have shared common values? Do you still have a vision for where you want your partnership to go? And for there to be a team, there needs to be goals and a game. And a game is how you achieve a goal. Like a game can be going to Hawaii, or saving a certain amount of money, or making certain investments, or buying a house. All of these can be games if you set up goals and deadlines and start working on it together. So this is the big part. This is one of those breakthroughs. It's like, oh, I don't have one relationship. I have 3 relationships. And the challenge is you've got to meet needs for all all three of them, and you've got to have skills for all three of them. So this is where relationships are more complicated than we want them to be. But they're a lot less complex than we think they are because nobody ever gave you a map before. So today is about the map. All right. Diving to the next part of this whole process. Oh, put it all together, you get a remarkable relationship. This couple started out feeling hopeless and alienated in their marriage. They wondered if it was over. And this is interesting because Linda came by herself. Her partner did not come in. They're married for, I think, 25 years. He did not join us for this. And she did the work by herself and then took it back and turned things around. It was pretty amazing. And I put all of these three up front, the impact it had. There was some simple tools. The first session, we noticed a difference right away each week because I work with them. I've worked with a lot of different people from around the country that I've never even met physically. I just have met them over Zoom. So we do a session like this. And they were from Arizona. And we just met over Zoom when I was living in Hawaii. And they said their only regret is that they didn't find this 25 years ago. This couple, he was living down. I mean, he was upstairs. She was living downstairs. To say they were roommates was almost an overstatement. It was really tough, and they've been doing that for years. And coming to the workshop and going through this process turned things around. Now, this couple stopped doing the work and ended up going back to having major issues. And here's a simple thing. It's not a switch that you turn off. It's like I said earlier, going to the gym. You can't just go to the gym and then say, I did it for a week, I'm done for the year. It's a muscle you keep building and developing. And it's the same with relationships. If you stop working on the relationship, they stop working. So I thought this was very cute. It's like, where do you want to work? On the past, on the present, or on the possible future? So we got to focus on, are we working on friend, lover, partner? And what are we doing? Work on the past, the present, or the possible future? And there's a term called bioavailability. Bioavailability is how much of a vitamin can your body absorb. And what happens is certain vitamins are designed better and your body absorbs more of them, or you take them in a certain combination and you can absorb more of them. Well, some vitamins are only like 5% bioavailable and some are 80. If it's radical, it's a 90% bioavailability. This is not about vitamins. So this is about what I call relationship availability. How available are you and how available is your partner in the relationship? Like if the whole relationship is spent where you're looking at your partner and they're going like this and they're on their like cell phone, then they're not very available. Or if you're spending your whole time on your cell phone, you're not very available. So the idea of having a remarkable relationship is to become more available. And to do that, what you have to do is clear up the past. The more that you've cleared up the past, and that's your wounds and triggers, the more available you become. And this, by the way, this right here, and I'm going to switch over to this view just for, a second, so we can see this. This is a brace. And so the way you use it, it was for my hand. Oops, I went like this. And I had gone over the handlebars and I broke this hand. Now, this brace was really important for about a month and a half to 2 months, because what happened is it protected me long enough for my wound to heal. But if I left the brace on for the next, say, year and a half, would it be helping me or would it be hurting me? It basically would atrophy the muscles and I would lose use of the muscles. And that's what happens in relationships. A lot of times we've got wounded from the past and we put on a brace and we say, never again, never again. And that becomes in our Ross, we'll get into our beliefs. And we have beliefs like, I'll never let myself be vulnerable again, or I'll never do this again, or I won't trust men, or I won't trust women, or I won't be whatever. So what we want to do is uncover where is it in our relationship that we're still using that. So let me go blow that up a little bit. So clearing up the past, we either are, well, all of us have been wounded. If you're on this call, most likely you've been wounded. You've had some relationship issue and you've had your heart broken. By the way, if you've had your heart broken, just put a type in a yes there. Yes, had the heart broken. Just a quick yes. So we have a choice, though. When our heart's been broken, we either get bitter and shut down, or we get better and we become more available. The next thing is we work on being present, and how present are you and how present is your partner. And one of the things to test your ability to be present is not when things are going good, but when your partner is in pain. There's a term that I have called maleitis, with the masculine. And what happens with the masculine, it's masculine. When the feminine comes in pain, the masculine thinks, yes, I need to fix it. I need to get her out of pain, because the longer she's in pain, the worse that I feel, because I must have done something wrong. It's either my fault or my responsibility. And when I'm saying it, by the way, masculine, feminine, it's one of those things where I have a feminine side, masculine side too. All right. So here's the thing. If you want to be present, you have to learn how to be with somebody who's in pain and doesn't want to be fixed. So how many of you, when you're in pain and go to your partner, want your partner to fix you? Or how many of you want empathy? So just put in there empathy or fixing. I know what I want. I want empathy. Now, here's the problem. I also like fixing. This is my career, is to have good ideas to help people. So I really have to bite my tongue at times and ask my partner, when she's hurting, I'll ask her, do you want empathy or do you want ideas? Because I got lots of ideas. But the problem is, if she's not ready or interested in listening to them, it's just a waste of time and energy. So what do you like when you're in pain? Do you want somebody to give you empathy, or do you want ideas? And what happens is, if your partner isn't capable to be with you in your pain, upset, anger, all of that, you feel disconnected. People are saying empathy. If your partner is able, you feel connected. So here's the third one, is possibilities. And what is it that we want? We want to clear up the past, connect and get present, create possibilities for the future. Because what do possibilities create? I was talking to Leah, I think it was earlier today, just about this concept, and said, how do you feel when you know next week you're headed for Hawaii? That Hawaii isn't the past, isn't the present. It's a possibility for the future. And how does the possibilities for the future impact the present? Well, it's really exciting. We've got something fun to do, someplace fun to go. And so in a relationship, if you want to keep it alive, what you have is you've got possibilities for the future. And you keep building possibilities. Are you willing to create something for the future? Now, if the only possibilities you have are ones that are for you, your partner ends up feeling left out, and it doesn't feel like a team. It just feels like, back to that 4 quadrants, it's everybody for themselves. So do you have possibilities? Are you willing to create possibilities where your partner is included? So relationships are a hell of a climb. And are you available? And I don't just mean physically there. I mean, are you physically available, mentally available, emotionally available, sensuously, sexually, all of that, intimately available? How available are you? And how available is your partner? Now, it's really interesting because I've been working so hard on getting prepared for this partnership relationship training that I haven't been nearly as available as I normally am for my partner. So it's been kind of interesting to watch, and I have to periodically, like, I'll go cuddle, we'll have dinner together, and then I'll come back up, put her to bed, and I'll come back up and work. So you have to do special things. How available are you? How capable? Like, we're going to get into the 7 skills. Are you trained? Are you capable? Are you willing? I am actually going to zip right through this because we started a little late. I want to get through everything. So if you think about remarkable relationships, I want you to type in now, is it luck or is it skill? Or is it 50% luck, 50% skill? What percentage luck, what percentage skill do you think? So just type that in. What percentage luck, what percentage skill? And if you think about it, when you've got a pilot flying a plane from, say, LA to Hawaii, do you want them going based on luck or skill? So if it's really important, what do you want to do it? Luck or skill? So this is a picture here, and we're going to do a quick thing in a minute where we're going to find out what skills you need. And by the way, my answer to this, so that you've got my answer, is luck and skill. But the luck part is finding somebody. See, I was lucky to find Leah because she had already worked on her skills. So she had a set of skills that I really liked. And so it worked really well. So the luck part is finding someone who's dedicated enough and built their skills. Now, this picture right here, I lived for years in Alaska, and black ice was everywhere. And so my question is black ice a problem for you? Well, there's a skill for driving on it, and these cars have spun out, and they're cars, if you look, they're cars off the road everywhere. So how important is black ice driving skills to you? How big of an issue is black ice in your area? Now, I live in Carmel, California right now, and in Carmel, black ice is almost non-existent. I've never heard of it here. But when I lived in Alaska, black ice was a major issue in the fall and in the spring. In the winter, it was just snowed in. But in the fall and spring, you needed to have, it was important to have black ice skills. Now, how important is it to have the skill, and how skillful are you? We're about to dive into that. So it's about having the right tool. Now, just so you know, I'll give you the short version of this, but I was driving to teach when I lived in Colorado, I taught at the Golden Prison, the Golden Jail in Golden, Colorado, and I would go there once a month and work with inmates from minimum to maximum security. So I'm driving one time, and I had left the house, and I got a piece of bacon stuck in my teeth. And it was like driving me crazy. And I tried my fingernail to get it out, and it just made it worse. And then I got a business card out, and I tried putting the business card in there. And what happened is the business card got wet, and then I got business card stuck in there. And so for like about, 20 minutes driving from Estes Park to Golden, I was driving along and had this thing stuck in my teeth. So finally I stopped, pulled over, and I found this. Not this particular one, But what is this? What tool do I have here? Type in the tool just so I know you're all still there. What is this tool? By the way, there's a short delay. So in between the time you type it in and I see it, there's a little bit of a delay. But if you said toothpick, yes, you're right. And how long did it take when I used the toothpick to get it out? It took about, at the most, 30 seconds. It probably took about 10 seconds. Why? Because then I had the right tool. And when you have the right tool, it becomes easy to do. And so it's the same thing. People say, we've been working on this relationship issue forever. And every time we talk about it, it gets worse. Why? Because you're using the wrong tool, or you're trying to solve the wrong problem. Because I help people who had persistent problems all the time, that they had problems they've been working on for years. I had one guy sit down in my office and said, we've been to 6 different therapists before we came to you. What's different about you? And so I just smiled. I said, well, let's try the tools and see. And what was different is we had tools that worked. And if you think about it, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. And in your relationship, have you ever felt hammered? Like that was, my dad was a mix between an alcoholic and a great guy. And when he was a little bit drunk or he could get, well, actually, even when he was sober, he could be nasty. And it felt like he had the tool, he would hammer you. I felt very hammered growing up. I wish he had more relationship tools. And he hammered on my wife. Not my wife, my mother, and not physically. I don't think he was ever physically abusive, but he was emotionally abusive. And because it's like, I don't even blame him. He just never got trained right. He never got the right tools. And here's what you want. You want this. You want a full tool bench when it comes to relationship skills. So I'm going to talk to you about your tool bench, and then let's see what else we've got to cover here. 2 other quick things. This can look a little overwhelming. I will go through it one by one, and hopefully it will be less overwhelming. There are really only 7 skills here. Number 1, compassionate communication. So here's how we fill it out. You see this on importance? Remember, how important is it? Like if we said driving on black ice, if you live in San Diego, how important is it to learn how to drive on black ice? Is it 1 or is it 10? How big of a problem is black ice in San Diego? It's probably a -1. So you would put 1 here. And the other side is, what's your skill level? Are you skilled at driving on black ice? Really skilled or not skilled? So let's turn it around. Say you live in Alaska. It's a really important, say it's a 8, how important it is. And your skill level is a 3. You now have a big problem when black ice shows up. You got to stay home or you're going to get in an accident. All right. Compassionate communication. How important is compassionate communication in your relationship? So type in the box, in the comment box, importance. So you can just put importance, well, I/ and then put a number. How important is compassionate communication? Is it I1? Is it I5? Is it I10? Like in my relationship, it's probably an 8 or a 9. How good am I at compassionate communication? What's my skill level? So I would say an S8, skill level 8. There's still some growth. Leah could tell you there's times that I'm not as good at it as I think I should be, or maybe she thinks I should be. So, but it's about level here, 8 and 8. Then we go over to getting need. Well, let's look and see. Type in, so I10, it's a 10. And then what about skill 7? So that's still pretty good. So you could, So as we go around, what you're going to do is find out where it's really important and where your skill level is lower. So when we go to getting your needs met, so how important is it in a relationship to get your needs met? So here's what I say about needs is we have a culture of need shame. In fact, it's one of our insults. If you call somebody needy, it's not a compliment, it's an insult. So needs is, we have a hard time talking about it in this culture. And yet, if you're in your relationship, if your needs aren't getting met, what happens to the relationship? It's over. It's either physically over or it's emotionally over, but it's over. And I've rarely had anybody come to me and say, my needs, my top 3 or 4 needs are getting met at levels 8, 9, and 10. I'm going to go find somebody else. When your needs are getting met, what kind of a relationship do you have? You have a remarkable relationship. So when you look at needs right now, how important are needs? So it's going to be a little more complicated because when we put these in here, we want to be able to tell which one it is. So for needs, I'm going to ask you to do it a little bit different. NI. So needs, importance, how important is it? Like in my relationship right now, I would say it's a 9. How important is it to meet each other's needs and get my needs met? It's NI 9. How skillful am I at it? So that would be an NS, and you decide. And here's what I mean by skillful. Are you able to notice, and can I notice my needs? Can I name my needs? Can I negotiate my needs? And this is just an introduction to it. This part is so critical. We're going to go into one of the evenings. It's going to be all about your needs. So NI and then NS. So put a number on each of these for your needs. Conflict resolution. Now, how important is conflict resolution in my current relationship? It's about a 5 or maybe a 4. It's not because it's not important. It's just because right now there's not a lot of conflict in this relationship. So we don't need to be worried about it. It's not one of the things we're focused on because we don't have a lot of conflict. Why? Because we're both pretty skilled at it. We're both probably 7s or 8s or something like that. So, but if you've got a lot of conflict, then you need to up the level there and look at your skill level. All right. We just got a couple more to do. This is a really important thing. And if you don't get it all done tonight, do it as homework, print this sucker out. As you come to the next ones, we'll be able to talk about it. Yeah, see, there you go. Needs important is an 8. Needs skill level is a 6. So we'll see when we look at the rest of them, that might be an area to focus. I think it's an area for all of us to focus is on our needs. Wounds and triggers. How important is this in your relationship? Now, how do you know how important it is? How available are you to the relationship? If you're not very available, or if your partner's not very available, it's probably because somebody's been wounded and they haven't healed it. So that's wounds. And the more wounded you are, remember this. Let's see, I don't have my. Well, when somebody touched me and my hand was broken, I reacted very loudly, even though it was just a small touch. It hurt exponentially worse than the touch. So if somebody's wounded, they're always triggered, or they're very triggerable. And you're walking around and talking around on eggshells. You can't talk about issues because you trigger them, or you get triggered. And how much fun is it to be with someone who's always wounded? It's not that much fun. And yet I understand, there's a healing process. So part of what we're going to do is look at healing the history. So this would be WI, and then how wounded, WI 1 through 10. So I would say WI 5 or 6 for me. That's still an area that's still, I'm still working. I went through 1 divorce, 4 broken engagements, and even though I have all these tools, I still have to go to the gym. It's not like I went to the gym once and I got perfect. And my skill level is about probably a 6 or a 7. It's not as good as I'd like it to be, and it's still pretty good. And I need to focus on it and do the work. So that's wounds. Down at the bottom is going to be TI and TS. Trust. How important is trust in the relationship? And how important is trust building? So right now, if trust is an issue, then you want to put it as it's really important to work on this skill. If trust is not an issue, you can move it down. It doesn't have to be as important. So like I said with black ice, if you're an area of black ice is important. If you're not, black ice, not important. What we want to do is get what are the skills you need to work on. And then during this 5 days, I'm going to give you as much as I can. And if at the end of that, you want to take it deeper and work with me, I'm going to do something over the next 3 months, starting in January, where it's going to be an ongoing program. And it's going to be like going to the relationship gym and working out and figuring out what skills and developing them. All right. So there's trust building, TI and SI. All right. And I see a 5-5 and an 8-8, but I don't know which ones those are for because there's a lag here. All right. 3 shades of intimacy. This one would be an II. How important is intimacy to you? And physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, and sexual intimacy. And I worked with a couple recently, amazing couple, and they were at the edge of divorce and hadn't had sex in like a year. And everywhere else, their relationship would look perfect. They make a ton of money. They're very successful. They have the great kid, the great house. They look beautiful. They're gorgeous people, super smart, worked really hard on their relationship, but they were missing a piece. And because they didn't know where to look, it would almost ended the relationship. And in about 3 months, we turned it around because they started applying the tools. They looked at where do they need to focus? And when they focused on, remember, friend, partner, lover, and what skill level do we want to focus on? And past, present, and future possibility. So intimacy, how are we doing on intimacy? For me, I'll just say as far as important goes, it's probably 9 or 10. It's always important. The physical, the touch, the emotional, which is the communication. Can I share emotionally? Can she share emotionally with me? And the sexual intimacy, is that alive? How do we keep that alive? So all of those, and I would say as far as skill levels, I'm an 8 or a 9 in that area because I focused on it, because I was such a disaster in all 3 of those areas for years. I decided it's either master or monk. Learn about it, master it or monk. So how are you doing as far as intimacy? So II, importance. So you would put II 5, II 8, and then IS. So what you're looking for is where do you want to focus? So what you find is those things that are really important to you and you have a low skill level at it, whether it's getting your needs met, resolving conflict, compassionate communication. By the way, with compassionate communication, one of the things that we're going to get into is the key thing that everybody wants, like everybody wants, and it's rare for me to say everybody always wants this. When they're talking, they want 3 things. They want to be heard, understood, and valued. And you will transform them if you hear them, understand them, or value them. It doesn't mean you agree with them. It means that you're valuing them and valuing what they have to say. Can you do that? If you're really good at that without getting in an argument, you're pretty skilled. Now, how good are you at communicating so that your partner hears, understands, and values you without getting defensive? That would be the communication part. All right, I kind of jumped one here. By the way, if this is helpful, because this is sort of why I wanted to do it, and I'll get the Zoom call worked out. Zoom call, we can interact back and forth. With this, there's no interaction, so I don't see you out there. And I'd like to see you and hear your responses. Is this helpful to look at it this way? So if it's helpful, just put like a hell yes in there, or nope, not interesting. All right, dealing with differences. This one is critical in relationships because it's when you have differences and difficulties and upsets. How you handle that will decide how you handle the relationship in the future. So dealing with the differences is going to make all the difference. And having the skill set to be able to do that, because most couples never have a discussion about how they're going to make decisions. So you want to make a decision about decisions. So that is in that thing. So that would be DI. Like in our relationship, decisions still really important. I would say that's right up there with an 8 or a 9. And I would say there's places where I still get triggered or tripped up around money topics and things like that. So there's wounds that I need to work on. So I would probably say that I'm a 6 in that area. So that might be like if I was bringing something to this course, I would say dealing with decisions. That one seems ripe for possibility. So I would go healing wounds and dealing with decision. Which 1 or 2 skills do you think would make the biggest difference for you? So if you could type in that, which 1 or 2 that if you worked on them would make the biggest difference for you. And while you're typing in, I will skip to the next one here. And there are only 2 more. And I know we're later than I wanted to go. And I want to give you these 2 so you've got the whole thing and can be ready. I'm going to skip all of the amazing thing that people got from this, which I'm a little sad because it's a lot of good stuff. So if you watch the rewind, maybe you can slow it down. Sometimes the thing that is holding you back is all in your head. I love that. There is a plastic chair holding back a horse. All that horse has to do is lift its head and it's got it. But because it's conditioned, it believes that it's immobile, so then it behaves as if it's immobile. So it is. So the key is, what do you believe? And are you programmed to fail or succeed? This is the programming, and it's running the show. And the problem is 90% of it is invisible. And that's your ROS, your relationship operating system. And so everybody here is on this call. I'm going to make a prediction. Let me do this now. Oh, yeah. I wish I had one of those envelopes. You remember when Johnny Carson used to do that, when he would make a prediction, hold the envelope open? Okay, so my prediction is you're here because you want to get a different result. You want something to happen in the relationship that's not happening, or you want a relationship to happen, or you want something to stop happening that's happening in the relationship. You want more intimacy, connection, compassion. You want to feel heard, understood, and valued. So you want a result. So what controls the results you get or don't get in your relationship? It's the actions you take. And certain actions produce certain results. So your actions control your results. So what controls your actions? This is the important part, is your beliefs. Now, are your beliefs visible? If they dissected my brain, they would not find my beliefs. The only way that I know what beliefs I have is by the actions I take or don't take. And so what happens is my beliefs control my actions control my results, and my results at least influence or control my beliefs. So if you believe that, like, if your parents had a terrible relationship and you believe that the way you showed love is you hit each other, and then that's the kind of action you took, and that's the kind of results that you produced, and then your beliefs would go, it would reinforce your beliefs. And literally, I mean, I know that sounds like a crazy example, but when I worked in prison, I worked for the men's side and the women's side, and there would be a room full of women. And I said, you know, you could be in a relationship where your partner doesn't hit you, and they're going, nah, no, I don't think so. It wasn't even in their belief system that that was a possibility. So the problem is this becomes a cybernetic loop, and until you can change your beliefs, you're not going to change your actions, and you're not going to change your results. So what we want to do here is we want to stretch that out. It should be a little bit different. It's your vision. So your beliefs are coming from either your vision of possibility or from your past results. And so we want to re-engineer, or you may want to re-engineer your beliefs. So your ROS is your habits, patterns. Those are both unconscious, and actions, and those are driven by your beliefs. So if you want to change your results, we have to change the habits, patterns, and beliefs. And one way of doing it is to discover what they are. So next week, not next week, tomorrow, when we dive in here, we're going to look at what's doing damage in the relationship. And after, I just want to go through one couple, and then there's a last thing, and we are done. This couple worked with me, and part of the reason I got them is because they came to a 2-hour event, and then for 3 or 4 months, they were going, yes, we want to work on it. No, we don't. She constantly wanted to work on it and was interested and committed. And he would say, yes, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not. Yes, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not. Well, after finally doing it, it took like 3 or 4 months. And I was like, okay, whatever you want to do, just if you want to do it, come to me. If you don't, and they would call up and we're going to do it. And then they call up, no, we're not. And they call up. And so here's the outcome though. After working, it took about 3 months. Like I said, you could waste that time if you want. When they finally came and we worked together for about 3 months, she said she got back her feminine power and went from feeling like he had all the power and the final say to understanding that what he wants to be is her hero and make her happy. And there is a place in the masculine that wants to be a hero and make you happy. And that she could use the "can you hear me now" communication process to enter his world, and he really got to feel heard, understood, and value him. That gave her more patience, confidence, compassion, and connection with her lover. It also gave her the chance to go deeper into his world. And how do you think he felt when she really cared like that? She was also able to discover which of the 7 core needs, and I've added 3 since I worked with them, so there's 10 core needs now, was beneath all of the upsets. She was able to identify limiting beliefs and let go of them. She stopped taking his masculinity personally and started to understand and appreciated the difference between the sexes. Because if you want a great relationship and you want great passion, passion is created by polarity. So there's a strong masculine, strong feminine. And even if it's a gay relationship or a lesbian relationship, it's still, there's a strong polarity in there of masculine and feminine energy. She got clear on the power of her words, and she also stopped saying what she didn't want and started asking for what she did want. That got her more of her needs. Now, I just want to cover, then we're doing the last exercise, then we're done. And by the way, at the end of this, I'm going to want to hear from you what was most valuable for you. All right. What he said is they aren't taking themselves so seriously and they're having much more fun. He got to understand the differences between men and women in an empowering way for both of them. So that was helpful for both of them to hear the difference between masculine and feminine. He saw sex as a great indicator on how connected they were, sort of a canary in the coal mine of telling whether or not their relationship was in good shape. And basically what happened is I did an interview with the two of them at the end of it. And I just was typing like crazy. These are the things they told me. He felt that he was able to really enter her world so that she felt heard, understood, and valued. And he felt like her hero, which is a very cool thing. He stopped worrying about what he said and became very interested in what she heard. This is a huge breakthrough, and that's an advanced skill we'll get into in communication. He loved that they both became aware of the impact of using any language that implies BSW, bad, stupid, wrong. He discovered the power of speaking in chunks and not overwhelming his partner, chunking down information so it was absorbable. If you think about it, even a great meal, if you don't eat it in bite-sized pieces, it doesn't taste that good. It's like you need to communicate in little chunks. And then check in. What did they hear? All right. He also got to understand the difference between chunking for the masculine and chunking for the feminine, because the masculine mind and the feminine hear things differently. It also helped him stop taking it personally when his beloved asked him to slow down or use smaller chunks. He stopped playing to lose and started playing to win. That's an advanced concept we'll go through later. And he became more patient and supportive of her. So the reason I read that and read it slowly is I want your brain to get the idea that this is possible so that you can go from dabbling in a relationship to mastery. And now, where do you want to be a year from now? And I would love for you to just type it in. Where do you want to be a year from now? Do you want your relationship to be great, like remarkable? Do you want it to be good? Do you want it to be stuck in habits and patterns? Be in conflict where you keep recycling upsets? Crisis? And I know I'm asking you to consciously say it, because if you don't, you get there by default. Do you want to be done? And do you want to be gone? So which one do you want? And the next question is, where are you now? So maybe you could put both in, like now I'm at wherever it is. I'm in crisis and I want to be a good, or I want to, I'm in conflict and I want to be good. I want to move up to being just stuck, or I want to be great. And if you look back a year ago, where were you then? So this is an indicator. You want to be great. What do you need to do differently to go from where you are to where you want to go? Where are you now? Circle that. If you don't want to share it, that's okay. But, got it. I'm stuck and I want to be great. So that's a great indicator. And then if you look at I'm stuck, then you can look and go, am I stuck because I need more skills around friendship, around lovers, around partners? Am I stuck in the past? Am I, what are my habits, patterns, and beliefs? Where am I stuck? And what am I going to do about it? Because this whole process is to give you the tools to identify that. So you can find out where you are, where you want to go, what's stopping you. So this is the end of tonight. What I would love, as I summarize it, if you could give me a quick type, what did you get from tonight? What made the biggest difference for you? So we went through, what are the 3 different relationships that we have? We have friend, partner, lover. We can be stuck in the past. We can connect and get present. We can have possibilities. There are the 7 relationship skills that we go through. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss. Oh, yes, I did miss something. There are the 4 quadrants, quit and stay, to everybody for themselves, to down to waiting for my turn, up to partners, and then remarkable relationship. So these are the different quadrants we can get stuck in. And then which quadrant do we want to be in? So those were some things. What made the biggest difference for you? And then the homework is to go through, fill this out, and share it with a friend. So if you're doing this with a study buddy, it'd be good to do it with a study buddy, and it'd probably be good to do it with a study buddy that's not your partner, because it's easier to do some of the practices later on with somebody that not your partner, because they're not as easy to trigger, and you get to get some practice in this. So I see what made the biggest difference: the 3 relationships and the 7 skills. Yeah, and we'll dive deeper into all of this. And I so appreciate your time and energy. I'm so I really had to give myself some empathy, because I'm so frustrated, because I wanted to have this thing all worked out, and it ended up not going exactly as I expected technologically, and I'll work on that. So, all right, thank you. Have a good evening. You can also, if you could post in the group what you got from tonight, that would be great. So have a good night. Ciao, everybody.